Happy Friday, and welcome to another Fulfillment Friday. It's good to see y'all again, and I hope it's been a good week. And today I have a very special guest, a longtime friend, and someone who's been very active in the brony and furry communities, and has really helped make it the fandom it is. I'm joined by Dustykatt.
Ah, I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, I would. Absolutely.
You give me too many props sometimes.
I don't think I do. Besides, they're my props to give. Haha.
Who do you think you are? Sweetie Bloom? I mean, come on.
If I could be that generous. Besides, they're my props to give. Haha.
Who do you think Love you, are? Sweetie. Sweetie Bloom? I mean, come on.
Well, hopefully she'll get to join us during this cast and the chat.
Yes.
But let's see here. I'm just going to boost your audio a little. Folks, let me know
Okay.
if we sound too quiet or not loud enough. It's all
Yes.
realm of the possible.
Yes.
And so, you've joined me once again as I am continuing to tackle the somewhat daunting project of drawing Ponyville.
Oh my God.
Yep. I've gathered several screenshots. The reward for a Patreon supporter is he asked for his OC flying over Ponyville. And there aren't a lot of aerial shots of Ponyville to be had. So
no.
So taking a whole bunch of screenshots.
Okay.
And just trying to piece it together as best I'm able, because if there's one thing about Ponyville, is that its geography is rather flexible.
It has been pretty flexible. I mean, you don't not really sure exactly where Sweet Apple Acres is. It's out there somewhere, right? Sometimes they go to the left screen to go there, and sometimes go to the right screen to go there. So it depends on where they're pointed, right? It's like you're not really sure exactly where some of the outlying stuff is. Where exactly is Fluttershy's cottage, right? It's like, is the Whitetail Woods on the east or on the west? And we know that Sweet Apple Acres is on the edge of the Everfree Forest, so they have to be away from Whitetail Woods. So where exactly is all these places? I mean, we did get the canon map, like after season 4, I think it was. But there's been so much that happened since then. I mean, they didn't really put out a quote unquote updated map during probably season 8, season 9. So we're not really sure. I really wish they had. I really wish they had done one final map, you know?
They may yet. I mean, we're still getting those.
Oh, they may. I mean, yeah. We got IDW season 10 happening soon. They're going to talk about that during the IDW panel at BabsCon Online tomorrow. So,
yes, Jeremy Wheatley and Andy Price talking with our friend Sweetie Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be most excellent. Though, in answer to your question, where is Fluttershy's cottage? I found this screenshot, which is from season 4. Is that her cottage right there? It's low.
All right, let's see. Get closer. I don't think so, because her cottage is way out.
It's true.
Right?
Yep. Of course.
So I don't think that's her cottage. No.
Although
that's a different.
Though what I find funny,
it doesn't have enough trees.
Very true. Though what I find funny is that Twilight's castle is just appearing, disappearing. Also, thank you, Vaporeon. It's not Vaporeon, but it's Vaporeon the Eevee. Thank you for following. But Twilight's castle, from what I can tell, it's in front of a river. There's a river leading far off to Twilight's castle. The river goes through Ponyville. A river runs through it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So here it is. The river is just winding its way. Twilight's castle has to be over here somewhere. But in like at the start of season 9, where the element's destroyed, the Everfree Forest is encroaching again, it's nowhere in the landscape. it's the disappearing castle. And given what a pain it must have been to draw with all those facets, I don't blame them
Right.
for not
Yeah.
for saying you get one angle and then we're over budget.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. On top of that, there's a lake in front of it.
Yeah, yeah, I don't see that on the
No,
map
no,
either.
the lake is behind it, and that's where the school is. The school is behind the castle.
Built into a mountain.
And it's built into a mountain, if you remember. So where's the mountain? So if you can find where the mountain is, or the hill big enough to be a kind of a mountain, then you can say, okay, well, it's in front of that. But I've never seen a hill big enough to be a mountain anywhere in the Ponyville skyline.
So it's the appearing, disappearing school and castle.
Yes. Oh, it's Starlight's castle. Someone asked, so whose castle is it? It's like seeing as she's gone to Camelot. Well, it's Starlight's castle. You know what? I would probably, you know what I would bet? I would bet that the castle has been co-opted into school dorm rooms.
There's certainly
That's what I
room
would
for
bet.
it.
It has an industrial kitchen. It has an industrial kitchen, so therefore it could be turned into School of Friendship dorm rooms for creatures from beyond the pale. You know, creatures from beyond Equestria.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm thinking. That's my canon now. My canon is the castle has been turned into on-site housing for the School of Friendship for creatures from beyond the borders of Equestria.
I think that's a pretty awesome upgrade. Thinking when my college ran out of dorm room space, they kicked everyone junior above off campus and co-opted hotels.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
wow.
Yep, they literally...
I actually got lucky in the college I went to in 1980, fall of 86, spring of 87. Had just finished a row of dorms, which actually snaked along a river, a big valley where a river was. Mm. So they were all S-shaped, and they had just finished them maybe a semester before I got there. So I was like, I had like a brand new room. It was sterile. I mean, it was your typical, very sterile dorm room with concrete walls and very thin carpet on top of concrete. It was a really bad room. I mean, it really, and it rang. I mean, if you talked anywhere in that hall, you could hear everybody's conversation up and down the whole hall. It was really bad.
Dang. But at least it was fresh. You're not inheriting.
At least it was fresh and new. Yeah.
Not inheriting and wondering who did this. Who was the last tenant and why did they do this?
And they had steel doors. Amazingly enough, they had steel doors.
Steel doors.
Steel doors.
How did anyone get them open?
No, they were just heavy doors. They were regular like door handle doors, but they were made of steel. I mean, the outside of them was steel coated, steel covered. It was like.
See, I kind of figured they'd be pretty heavy.
Oh, they were heavy, all right. I mean, you didn't want to slam those doors because the whole wall rocked.
Maybe that was the strategy: encourage noise reduction by making it just hyper volatile.
Maybe back when I was a young man during this time, and I didn't have such control over my temper. I was on the football team, and one of the other freshman defensive players, he was a guy who was so full of himself, and he was such a bully, and he bullied me, and then he got another guy along, which was his roommate, to bully me too. And they were both, one was on the team, one wasn't, and it was just, I got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. And they messed with me in the common room, right? And basically I put my arm around the guy's neck and I'm starting to pound him with my left arm, my left fist. And we go back over the couch. And the guy I had gone to college with from my high school, Randy, had gotten me in a full Nelson. I have no idea how he did because he's smaller than I am. Had me in the corner and said, "Get him out of here. He's going to kill him." Because I know Dusty, he's going to kill him. And they hustled him out and they went down to their room and shut the door. And I said, "Okay, let me go. So I went back to my room, got my hockey stick. I had a hockey stick with me at school. And I went to their door, which was right next to ours. And I started pounding that steel door with a hockey stick, screaming at them, saying, "Come out, I'm going to beat the living hell out of you." And yeah, it was one of those things where I broke the stick in half and finally calmed down enough that somebody said, "You got to get out of here. Campus police are coming." It's like, okay. We picked up the remnants of hockey stick, threw them in my room, and took off.
Wow.
And came back a few hours later. Nothing really happened, but found out from certain people that they were both, quaking in their boots that I was going to get through that door at some point. Yeah, it was. They didn't screw with me much anymore. That's for sure. But it was like, yeah, I'm much better with my temper nowadays. Don't do that, kids.
Did the guy who was so full of himself, did he take any lesson in humble pie from this?
No, he was still pretty much a meathead.
Uh,
The day we were all moving out of the dorms to go home, I actually helped him move out. I picked up his boxes and took them downstairs with his parents and put them in a car. And he said, "Why are you helping me?" I said, "Because I will never have to see you again the sooner you get the out of here." And he said, "Oh, okay." And I big smile on my face. Says, "You're leaving. Get out of my life. Bye."
Sometimes that's just the kindest way to end it. Just say,
yeah, pretty much.
You're out of my life. Bye." Yeah, I didn't know how to put this. The whole reason my school had to get hotel space is because we had this huge influx because our basketball team was suddenly a Cinderella story. Getting into the Sweet 16, I can say everyone who went there was just a poser. I was there before it was cool. And I swear I never got to speak to him directly, but the star of the basketball team, every interview he was in, every game he played, he looked like he was just basking in his own glory. And just really full of himself and pretty rude. So the fact is I've completely lost track of where he is now. I think he tried for the NBA, but I'm not sure how that worked out.
Oh, when I was in high school, my senior year, we got to the Final Four in the high school football tournament in Michigan. And the guys we played were Dearborn Divine Child, who had like 80 guys. They were all dressed as the Atlanta Falcons. It was really bad back in those days. The Catholic schools could actually recruit. And they had a lot of guys that ended up going on and playing for professional sports leagues, not all football. Dang. In fact, the quarterback ended up pitching for the Detroit Tigers at one point. But I sacked him once.
Nice.
Yeah.
Though I didn't know you could make that kind of shift. I always figured that if you get renowned for football in like high school and college, then NFL is the way to go.
Well, it depends. If you're an athlete, you're an athlete. I mean, when I was going to high school, I was on the track team. I was a better baseball player than anything. I was on the basketball team, wasn't very good at it. I was on the football team, which I was decent at, but I was a better baseball player than anything. But I did not get recruited for baseball out of high school. I got recruited for football. So I went to a school, played a year of football, and found out that college wasn't for me. And I went home, went to junior college for a year, and then just dropped out of college because college just wasn't for me. I'm more of a mechanical guy, use my hands. I like using my brain, but I like doing it as mechanically, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So going to college and learning to be a manager or whatever was just not for me. It's the school I went to was a business school, and it just wasn't working out for me. And I went home and ended up within a year, I was in Tulsa, working as a bodyguard for Mercedes Lackey and Larry Dixon. And then my life took off from there. And I went to Motorcycle Mechanics Institute, which was a trade school. And I figured out really quickly that my brain was more in the trades. And I went to MMI before it got bought by this other company. And it was actually decent. MMI back in the day had a really good reputation. Now they just pump guys out who don't know garbage. Because they're basically banking on all that student loan money. They just want to put people through as fast as they can to get student loan money. Back in the day, you had to be a pretty good mechanic through that school. So yeah, and now I'm a CNC machine operator and programmer, which is all the trades. So once I figured out that I was a trade guy, it all took off.
Nice. And a setback in the moment isn't the end of everything.
No, no, not at all. I mean, you just have to. Sometimes you'll be into a thing, you'll find out it's not for you, and then you just back up 2 steps, take a look at what's going on, and go, okay, we'll go in this direction. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you get lost, and sometimes you have to look at the map, and sometimes you have to go, oh, well, if I want to go there, I got to make a right at Albuquerque instead of a left. So. By the way, someone keeps asking me, how much do I lift? Well, I'm 52 years old. I don't lift nearly as much as I did when I was younger. My legs are the strongest part of my body, and I think I can still leg machine about 650 pounds. I can't squat anymore because I have a bad back and trick knees. But in sled machine, laying down sled machine, I can still do about 650. I don't do bench press anymore. I don't feel my shoulders can take it anymore. Sometimes I'll do incline bench, but mostly I do body weight and yoga. So I'll do push-ups, I'll do dips, I'll do band work, rubber band style work, but I don't do heavy lifting anymore. It's just that my body's broken down to a point where it's not. I'm not going for Jack's Blade style of fitness. I'm looking to maintain what I have for the rest of my life. So I'm gone with, heavyweight and showing off. That's not what I'm about anymore. I'm about being able to get up in the morning without pain, being able to look good in a t-shirt, being able to have people say, I don't look a day over 40. So I had a lot of people in this fandom go, there's no way you're in your 50s. It's like, I am. I was born in 1968, which was the year everything happened. People got shot, a war started, all this other kind of stuff. So, it's one of those things where, well, I don't believe you're that old. Well, I am. I grew up in the 70s. So, a lot of people say, well, what's your favorite anime? It's like, you don't want to know what my favorite anime is because you've never heard of them. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Everything seems to be on a bit of a cycle. I mean, Sailor Moon is getting re-released as Crystal. Dragon Ball Super continues Dragon Ball.
Yeah. But the thing is that the shows that I grew up on are Jungle Emperor, Mach Go Go Go, Science Ninja Team Gatchaman, the original Voltron, and Johnny Sacco and his giant robot. Have you heard of any of those?
Yes, several. Okay. But yep.
Yeah, Johnny Sacco was actually a live action Japanese show where a little boy had this wristwatch radio that he could control a giant robot with. And it was a very kid oriented Godzilla style of show. And it was it was a weekly program instead of like Godzilla was a movie kind of thing, where they had this guy in a giant robot costume that was controlled by the kid with his watch. It was really cool.
Did this robot? I know this is a weird question, but did it have a very long nose?
No, this one was silver with red trim, and he actually shot sort of like an Ultraman style of show, a robot. He had beams come out of his hand when he had it vertically. It was like, and it was a cool show.
Sounds like it. I'm gonna have to look for this. I have a friend who does kaiju movie reviews. Might be worth giving him the heads up on it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find you a link. Oh, it was called Giant Robo.
Giant Robo. Okay.
It was called Johnny Sacco and his flying robot in the United States, but it was called Giant Robo.
Okay.
In Japan.
Oh yes, and it has a sort of Pharaoh's Helm.
Yes, yeah, that's the show. Here,
Okay.
let me drop you a link here on the go. And of course, there was Ultraman back in the day, which sometimes I get confused with Giant Robo. But yeah, wonderful shows. And all that stuff was basically redubbed and put on UHF TV in the United States. Any of the big national shows, national regionals like New York, LA, Detroit, Chicago, Atlanta, any of the big cities normally played Japanese redubbed shows for kids in the 70s. I remember running home from school, which was right around the corner from my house, and watching. If I ran fast enough, I could catch the beginning of Jungle Emperor, which was Kimber the White Lion. And then I'd watch like 4 shows in a row before I had to do my homework. So it was a wonderful time to be alive, if you want to call it that.
I do. I remember though things like Voltron. They always had to do some pretty heavy redubbing for some of the more
Oh
violent
yeah,
aspects.
oh yeah. Well, Battle of Planets, which was Team Gatchaman, redubbed. They had to. That's why Seven's Arc 7 and One Rover 1 were actually created, because they had to cut so much time from a 22-minute show that they'd end up with 10 minutes, and they had to fill it with something. And they they would chop 2 or 3 episodes together and make one episode, because they couldn't use much because people died in Japanese animation. A lot of people died in Japanese animation.
Oh yeah.
So if you watch the original Science Ninja Gatchaman, there's a lot of death in it. Um, when I was younger and I finally figured out that it was Japanese, and I figured out what the show was. I wanted the show. I wanted copies of it badly, and I found out that somebody had there was a laser disc, if you remember those things. There was a laser disc that was out that had every episode of Science Ninja Gatchaman, all of the TV commercials for all of the toys, and a movie. And it was like $700, and I wanted it so bad, but I just couldn't afford it in those days. No way. Much less a player to play it on.
Yeah, I mean they had laser discs at my school, but I never saw them at home use just because they were huge.
Well, yeah, they were huge, but they did exist for home use. I mean, it was the fight between Beta, VHS, and Laserdisc. And Laserdisc died a hurried death, because I think Laserdiscs were $100 something a piece.
Oh yeah.
When you get a VHS tape or a Beta tape for $30. So they died hurry, and then Beta died when certain industries picked VHS. We won't talk about those industries here. We're a G-rated show. So yeah, and then Beta died. So, and then everybody who had a VHS recorder was the winner. My parents actually had a VHS based video camera back in the day, and it actually recorded to an actual VHS tape, and then you could use it as the VHS on your. They had 5 or 6 years ago. I went home and it's like, why do you still have this? Throw it away. But it was expensive. It was expensive 25 years ago. Yeah.
Now it's actually more expensive to maintain it.
Yeah, it's more expensive to maintain it. I didn't even know if it worked. I didn't even try. It's like, get rid of this. Out it went.
Nice. All righty. Well, first I want to give some shout outs in the chat, because I've seen Mad Munchkin, Sweetie Bloom, Lightning Bliss, and Voice of Reason. So good to see y'all.
Oh, yeah. I see them all. See you guys.
It's funny. I still have some old VHS, but I have no player.
Well, I have a player specifically because I have a lot of VHS tapes that are in my collection that are Japanese animation or things I bought that were one-off things I bought at a science fiction convention. Like, I've got a VHS tape of Ren and Stimpy pencil tests. I've got an original VHS third generation dub of Akira tests when you couldn't get an English translation of it back in the day. I mean, I've had that tape for 15 years, maybe longer. I've got VHS tapes of me playing high school football that we got when we graduated. I've got um, original Disney VHS tapes that I still want to play every now and then. So I do have one player, which I will never get rid of because I've got VHS tapes, which are probably degrading in my storage locker. I should probably just put them on DVD. I know you can do that nowadays, so I should just dump them all into DVDs and then just store the tapes as collector's items.
A good policy. I need to do the same. I mean, my stuff is equally degrading. Uh, what was Doug? No, it was Terry Pratchett who always commented, entropy is the odds-on favorite in this universe. A little pessimistic, but true. No, need that. Okay. So yeah, this is basically on my end. I'm just piecemealing Ponyville together as best I can. And I've always wondered
Yeah.
one thing while I've been working on this that I cannot quite understand. I know this is the joke shop from Griffin Brushoff. I think this is the jewelry store. But what is this? What is this pink horse head?
Pink horse head. Well, joke shop. That. Oh, what is that?
It's never featured in an episode, as far as I know.
Oh, you know where that? You know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Look, take a really close look at it. Look at the thatch roof. It looks like a hair. It looks like a hair. It looks like a main piece. I bet you any money that's a beauty salon.
That would make the most sense. I mean, it does look vaguely horse-headed, but yes, I see the tail. I see the mane. Even the window looks like an ear.
Yeah, that's the main salon.
Nice. Well, that makes sense. Probably it just never really had a close up of the exterior. So it's like, what is that? Is that
No.
I was almost ready to assign it as the place Flufflepuff could live. I mean, it looks practically made for her.
It could be Cranky's new wig shop. You know, his new toupee store. Did you like that joke? That joke came and went so fast in Bronies React, right?
Mm-hmm.
I put that in there specifically for that last episode, right? I went and bought a wig and everything. And when it came up and saw the little newspaper clipping with Cranky in it, I'm going, and I had the wig on for 2 seconds, and I said, "Yeah, that looks like Cranky's opening that new wig salon," and then gone. Absolutely nobody said anything about it. And I'm going, well, they're wasted a $12 wig right there. Whatever. Sometimes it's funny to me, and I don't think anybody gets it.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes it's just there's so many people, especially for the last Bronies React. Okay, the Bronies React of the last episode.
2 hours. That thing was 2 hours long
for a 40-minute piece.
For a 40-minute piece.
We all had a lot to say.
It was an hour of just people saying goodbye at the end, which was. And AC actually asked me, "It's like, do you know these people?" It's like, "Yeah, I know these people. Can you get something done?" Probably. And about half of them came from me. I poked just about everybody I knew, and I said, "Hey, can you guys do this?" And most everybody did. Some said they couldn't. Nicole Oliver said she couldn't. Kelly said she was busy. But most everybody did. Almost everybody dropped. So it was cool.
It was very cool, and it meant a lot to see everyone talking about where they were, what they enjoyed about the fandom. Some have moved on to other venues. Some are still around. But it was a good send off to the show. I still maintain I don't think that's the end of Bronies React.
Oh no, absolutely not. AC said it's not. So he hasn't come to us and said what we're doing next. But I think he's trying to back off a little bit for a little while and then figure out what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Because that last one took forever, I'm pretty sure. But almost everybody who worked on Pony is now working on the new Johnny Test, which just got announced from Wild Brain. So Wild Brain just announced that they're doing a new Johnny Test. And most of the directors that were on Pony are on it. All of the voice actors that were on the original Johnny Test, some of which were on Pony, are on the new Johnny Test. Ian is on it, and a whole bunch of other people. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the new Johnny Test. That's gonna be cool.
That's funny. This is the first I've heard of it. So when you said that, I was like, wait, what? For a,
Yeah, they just announced it
for a time,
yesterday, the day before.
for a time, you couldn't even turn on the TV on Cartoon Network, and it would always be Johnny Test, no matter what hour of the day. It always seemed to be Johnny Test. So there are
Yeah, hey, he was a hot property. I mean, it was Johnny Test or Teen Titans. That was it.
now it's Teen Titans Go, and
Yes, now it's Teen Titans Go, and that that show really needs to die. I mean, I love everybody who works on it. It's funny at times, but it needs to die. It's sort of like The Simpsons. It needs to die. Um, it's held on way too long. I'm really glad that Pony didn't pull a Simpsons or a Johnny Test, where it just stuck around way too long. In its current format, right? Johnny Test is coming back in a new format with new art. Pony's going to come back with new art and new story, hopefully within the next year. But let's talk. You know what we're going to talk about? Let's talk about the new claymations.
Oh yes,
Let's talk about the claymations. Oh my god, those things can hit or miss hard. Hard can they hit or miss?
What's the biggest hit for you?
Well, I liked the Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie making cakes. That was fun. The one that just came out with Rarity and the Giant Gem, that was fun. Some of the other ones, just the inane giggling. I mean, as long as now that at the beginning they were just inane giggling, the giggles didn't mean anything, right? You didn't actually think that they were speaking to each other. In the latest ones, they actually go or they have expressions, and they seem to be having fun with each other. The early ones, it was like, what's going on here, right? Did you just not have any money for voice actors or something? And the giggling was just really grating, really bad. And I was like, I'm not going to watch this. And it's like, and all of a sudden they changed direction. I think they actually listened to people and said, okay, we need to change direction with this a little bit. And now it's like, I can watch them. They're enjoyable at times, and at least it gives me some Pony, right? Where I'm waiting for G5 and I'm waiting for Pony Life, if it'll ever show up. I mean, what's it been? A year since they announced it. So I've gotten to a point where I've heard from some people that Pony Life is gonna be okay. It's gonna be good, because certain people have told me that they've read the scripts and they really like them. I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens with the art. We'll see what happens with this new studio that's making it. So I want to see it. I've gotten to a point now that I'm like, show it to me now. I'm tired of waiting for it. Let's go.
We've been patient.
I don't believe Pony. Someone asked Biden Moon said, "Is Pony Life the new G5?" I don't think so. I think Pony Life was basically an in between, sort of like G3.5.
Yeah.
Waiting for the next major pony.
I tied me over, and it can be its own thing. I have full faith in the Brony community to at least make it meme-tastic no matter what.
Yes. The crazy thing is that if you go look at the toys that are hitting the shelves right now, like the giant Rarity that's out right now with the giant hair Rarity, looks like the claymation Rarity. Which is really close to Pony Life, but not quite. I mean, it looks way more like the claymation character. So if you look at like the small brushables that just came out, they look like the claymation characters, not the Pony Life characters. So who knows what they're doing? I mean, it's no idea what's on Hasbro's mind. All they want to do is sell some toys, and I've bought all of them so far. So I mean, it's a very small investment in what's going on. I didn't buy the giant Rarity yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to, but all the other mini stuff, yeah, I bought all that stuff.
Nice.
So it's try to support the product, support the IP, because you want to see more of it. And I've said this before. It's like, if you want to see more Pony, buy the toys, even if you're not going to keep them. Give them to a hospital, give them to a charity, do whatever. But if you got a couple of bucks, buy a Pony toy, because basically that will tell Hasbro that we're still watching. That'll tell Hasbro we want more. And that's the only way that they're going to know that is you buy toys, because that's what it's for. It's a big giant toy commercial. Remember that.
Yeah, that's
like
something I always wrestle with. It's like, okay, they did that. It's a toy. It's a toy ad. It didn't work on me, but hey, it's what
yes.
it worked on someone. I remember watching Transformers and all those shows and wanting to get, if I saw an Autobot or Decepticon, I wanted to add it to my army.
Yeah, and Bliss is right. Buy our toys, buy them now. We will give you more pony, and that's they're basically holding us hostage. You buy the toys, we'll give you more pony. That's like IDW Comics, right? They're going to Hasbro allowed them to do season 10, right? They didn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, we're going to get more pony, but you have to go buy comics to get it. And I think that the comics are the most underappreciated part of pony. Underappreciated. If you guys are not buying the comics, you're missing out. Yes, they have certain artists that, I don't like, but I buy the comic anyway because it's part of my collection. But I have the artists I like. I'm sure there's people who have the artists they like. There's people who have the writers they like. There's people who have the writers they don't like. But there has been way more hits in the comics than there have been misses. And if you aren't reading the comics now that we have no pony, there is pony. It's in the comic books. And you should be buying the comic books. 1, it supports pony. 2, it supports Hasbro. 3, it supports the artists who are making it, like Andy Price and Tony Fleeks and Grabowska and all these other people who are wonderful people. So, and then that'll get you into comic books, and you might find another comic you like Azagi Yojimbo, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Sonic, or any of these other properties that you might like that actually have a comic book, right? So go look at Transformers has a comic book. MLP and Transformers are doing a crossover comic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, so there's that going on. Conan the Barbarian has still got a comic going. Red Sonja still has a comic going. Of course, you got Batman, Superman, all those other super duper dupes. Who cares? But all of that stuff is still going on, right? So comics are an amazing thing to get you through. Say you're in between superhero movies and you still want to see what's going on, buy some superhero comics. Agretzko has a comic. Thank you very much. I love Agretzko, but I'm sort of waiting for the next season. Well, She-Ra has a comic out there. The new She-Ra. So go to your local comic shop. Not only can you find comic books, but you can find toys, you can find D&D stuff, you can find dice, you can find all that stuff at your local comic shop. If you're not going to your local comic shop or your local gaming shop, you're missing out on a lot of stuff that you could be enjoying right now.
Makes sense.
Sorry, I went on a tangent.
No, if anything, all that's been happening, especially with the COVID-19, comic book shops, a lot of their futures have been in doubt. Some have closed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, some comic shops are doing curbside. My local comic shop is doing curbside. So all I have to do is call them up and say, "Hey, is anything in for me?" And they'll say, "No. What do you got?" And they'll say this, and I'll say, "I'll take X and Y," and I'll just go pick it up. I have a subscription at my local comic shop. I have My Little Pony, Azagi Yojimbo, and some other stuff in my subscription box. So basically, I call them up. Is there anything in my subscription box? They say yes. I go down and I buy it, and I keep them in business because I love those people. They have not only their comic shop, they also have a gaming shop, that you can actually rent out tables and play games and all that kind of stuff. Wonderful place here in San Jose.
Nice.
Yes, Elusive Comics and Games is the name of the shop, and they do mail order. So if you and they do support Pony like a mofo. They support Pony. They support Diana Simpson. They support all the independent comics. Very great store. The two guys that are pretty much the front guys are both comic nerds. They love comics. They remember everything I want. They'll call me and say, "Hey, this is coming in. Do you want it?" And it's like, wait a minute, you have hundreds of customers and you're calling me about X? Yes, I want it. Thank you very much. So, yeah, get on a first name basis with your local comic store, and they will actually find stuff for you.
Nice. See,
Actually,
Hmm?
actually, it's kind of funny. One of the two guys who's there, uh, I've known for years. Right, I've been going to that comic store for years. But before I went to that comic store, I went to a local show where Stan Sakai, the guy who does Uzagi Ojimbo, was at. And I'm going through quarter boxes looking for my Uzagi Ojimbo and other for funny animal comics at the time. And I'm looking specifically for the first comic that Uzagi Ojimbo was ever in, which was in a comic called Albedo #2. That comic was the holy grail at that time. Today, it's more of, because there was only 3,000 ever made, ever, right?
Wow.
And because it was a small independent black and white comic in the day, back in the 80s. So I'm looking, and he's like next to me. And he's going in the box ahead of me. And he pulled one out and set it aside. And I went, "Oh, dude." He went, "What?" I didn't know him at the time. He said, "Dude, that's the comic I need to complete my collection. I have all of those Uzagi Jumbo. I need that comic." And he went, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I need that comic." And he went, well, okay, you can have it." And I bought that comic for $25. You know how much that comic is worth today?
I hesitate to guess.
Flying guess. A flying guess. Because Uzagi Jumbo's been going for almost 38 years.
200?
No. Add another zero to that.
2,000? Seriously?
Yes. That comic last got graded at about $2,500.
Wow.
Because the people that have them aren't giving them up. And there aren't any in the wild anymore. All the collectors have them. I have one, which hasn't been CG graded, right? It's sitting in my comic box over there. I just never sent it to grade because I never want it out of my hands. Because I'm waiting. It's like, oh my God, I'll take it to a CG place at a comic show and go do it right here. I don't want to mail it anywhere because I might get lost. So, yeah, it's one of those things. It's the jewel of my comic collection. Is that particular.
And he just gave it to you. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, for almost nothing, because back in the day they were worth maybe a couple hundred, right? And he knew that. But because I would need it to complete my collection, he gave it to me. And to this day, he'll still needle me for that. He's like, "Dude, you still have that comic?" "Yeah, I got that comic." "You gonna let me send it into CBG?" I was like, "I'm not mailing it anywhere. You're not touching it." So yeah, it's that's the jewel of the collection.
It's mine. Stop looking at it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just want to answer a few quick questions from the chat.
Sure.
First off, Battleship Agent Court. Appreciate the compliment. You saying I'm your favorite analyst. That does mean a lot to me. I'm glad I'm still having a positive impact for folks. Champ to Stay. Has the idea of doing a top 10 personal episodes video ever popped into your head? Strangely enough, no. Mostly because I'm so behind in just reviewing the episodes. I feel like I haven't really earned that retrospective yet.
Yeah, you can't do a greatest hits until you get all the hits.
Exactly. And some of the flops that help you appreciate the hits. Let's see here. My favorite MLP comic, Zen and the Art of Gazebo Repair. That's for Olivia.
Oh, that thing is hilarious.
That
thing is hilarious.
And one of the
although I think my favorite series, my favorite like run of comics is the Nightmare Rarity arc. I think is my favorite because it took the Nightmare in a different direction. It took the Nightmare and it basically made the Nightmare its own entity, right? Whereas we thought the Nightmare was just Luna being, Luna going off. No, the Nightmare becomes its own entity where it can actually get into other people. So that gave the Nightmare its own sustenance, right? Its own thing. And then it came back, and then that wormed its way into the show, where Nightmare becomes a character in and of itself. So I really like that arc.
The single most recurring villain in MLP, even more than Discord.
Yes, that's why I'm still an OG Nightmare Moon lover. I love Nightmare.
See,
Everyone says, "Oh, well, there's Sombra and there's all these other characters." No, 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 no. Nightmare Moon is the babe.
Nightmare Moon is the catalyst for everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, I'll say I was less a fan of making the Nightmare Moon a sort of mind parasite, but that's like you say.
Mm,
Everybody has their own favorites. Everybody has their own style. I love Big Mac
yeah.
because this came out at a time where Big Mac was really a yep nope joke.
Right.
He didn't become a full on character until much later. But
Hmm.
Zen the Arctic Zebra Repair, it just had fun with Big Mac and Ponyville, and of course Andy Price's artwork
Yeah.
just made it a treat. It holds
Oh,
up.
geez. The one page where Fleetfoot goes off with, falling in love with Big Mac, and then it just follows all the way until they're old on a beach. Just that one page. I was like, holy man. It was amazing. Andy Price is a really an underappreciated gem in comics. He really is.
He's my favorite IDW artist, and honestly, I need to check out more of his work outside of MLP. But
Oh yeah, a lot of his horror stuff is amazing. I mean, it's one of those things. You've got the big name comic artists, Stan Lee and all of Stan Lee's people in Marvel and all these other big name artists. But I would put Andy Price right in there with all of them, And it's like I don't understand why he doesn't get more accolades for his work.
also, the fact that you mentioned that Andy does horror, uh, Sweetie Bloom will be doing the interview with Andy and Jeremy Wheatley tomorrow for Babs
Hmm.
Online. So just put this out there. I think that's a great question we could float towards Andy. How do you blend your experience uh, drawing horror comics with this franchise ostensibly made for kids? Because with oh, darn it, what was the Cosmos arc? He got to draw some truly terrifying landscapes.
Trippy, terrifying stuff, and it comes across. It came across in the Cosmos arc that he does do horror, and he loves to do horror.
And it's been present in a lot of ways. I mean, anytime he drew Queen Chrysalis, especially the first arc, her return,
Hmm. Hmm.
she's
He
never,
made her a horror character.
yeah, she looked threatening. She looked feral in many cases. But then he could change the note on a dime without losing the
Hmm.
audience.
Yeah, and all of a sudden the CMC put her in her place. It's like that. It was horror. It was threatening and funny at the same time. And not many people can do that. I mean, I don't know many people can do that at all. Somebody asked me in the chat, and I will answer this because they asked a couple of times. How long did it take me to write the modern Sea Pony limerick in one of the Bronies Reacts? It took me probably about an hour, and probably about an hour. I got stuck, I think, on the second verse, and then once one line played itself out, the rest of it wrote itself, pretty much. And sometimes that happens with me. It's like if I'm doing a parody song, right? If everybody knows that I've done parody songs in the past on my YouTube channel, that if I'm writing lyrics to a parody song, it just takes one line to write the entire song, right? I've been working on New York State of Mind by Billy Fowl for years. For years. I wrote the lyrics probably 3 years ago, but they didn't work. They didn't quite work, right? I'm going, well, this is kind of a parody, but it's kind of just putting pony on shit. It wasn't actually a rewrite. So finally, maybe a month ago, my brain went, ding, wait a minute, pull out those lyrics. And I pulled out the lyrics and I changed one line. I changed one line in the lyric. And all of a sudden, everything else fell into place. It was like, oh, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I got excited and I got really excited and went, oh my God. Now I have the lyrics. Now I have the lyrics. Now I just have to practice. Now I just have to practice it and make sure it sounds right. and I've been practicing it in my head for a little bit. I've been practicing it in the garage when I'm working on my model, and hopefully within the next month, I'll pull out another Billy Foal parody. Because finally, after years, the backside of my brain figured it out,
So
and it was like, oh yeah, just put that in the computer back here in the rear lobe, and let it go for a while.
let it percolate.
Sooner or later, it'll figure it out.
Oh, come on. Some of the best things just take a little while to percolate.
Yeah, pretty much. Voice of Reason asks me, I know you are a motorcycle enthusiast. What's your preferred cycle to ride work on? The one I have at the time. I'm not a motorcycle snob. If it has two wheels and a motor, I'll ride it. I'll work on it. I love motorcycles and motorcycling in and of itself. Um, I have a Honda Africa Twin right now. I'm saving up the money to put a bunch of doodads and doohickeys on it that I'm going to have a load of fun putting on that motorcycle. I'm a trained Harley Davidson mechanic. I can work on any Harley Davidson that's out there. Um, I can build one from scratch from certain years. Um, it's I love motorcycles. I love dirt bikes. I love trail bikes. I love scooters. I love, especially antique scooters. I like Vespas. I like Yamaha Chappies. I like um, Honda CB350s. I like anything that's old and cool, easy to work on, things like that. I not so much a BMW guy. I like BMW R/70s, /80s, the older stuff, but not like the big GSs, things like that. Harleys. I'm a trained Harley Davidson mechanic. I went to Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. I worked at 3 Harley Davidson dealerships. I worked 6 years for a company named Custom Chrome, making the parts that customize Harley Davidsons in a catalog. I built many show bikes. One ended up on the cover of Easy Riders magazine. And that one that was on the cover of Easy Riders was a trike. It was a copy of the Easy Rider bike done as a trike. I was on the team that built that. My name wasn't in the article because I'd left the company like years after we built it, but I was part of the team that. Yeah, I can do a bunch of stuff. So I love motorcycles. I love all kinds of motorcycles.
Well, it's great that like you talk about, you went through trade school to better understand that enjoyment and
Well,
become
yeah, well,
proficient.
and the trade school taught me how to be a mechanic, how to be a technician, not just throwing parts at a problem, how to actually fix a problem. And when that happened, it expanded my knowledge to all of a sudden I want to be more. I want to know more about this. I want to know more about that, which basically led me into CNC machine technology and engineering and design. So now I can program a CNC machine and know what needs to be made and how to put it together so that I can make part A work with part C after it makes part B. So basically, I can take the whole model, blow it apart, and figure out what part needs to be made first and how it goes together. But without being a mechanic, without doing the trade, I wouldn't be where I am today. Without working at 3 Harley Davidson dealerships, without working as a product specialist for Custom Chrome, without going to South Korea and Taiwan and Mexico City and working with manufacturing facilities, I wouldn't be where I am today. There'd be no way. So going through all of that, the good and the bad, taught me enough to where I could be where I am today. And I wouldn't change anything I did for the world. I mean, there's some things that I went through that I'd rather not, but everything I went through put me where I am. So I'm pretty thankful for everything I've had to go through.
I know what you mean. My career started video editor, paralegal, graphic design, and truth be told, all of those come into play when I do my videos.
Yeah.
So yeah, believe me, if anyone ever told me, "Oh yeah, you'll have this YouTube channel, and you'll actually have a strong following," it's like, "What? You're crazy." But no, and I owe a lot to just what seems like a meandering path, but it all comes together.
Well, that's like if I hadn't if I hadn't made the very first video, the Manly's Brony video, if I hadn't dropped into a stream of Mando Pony playing on Everfree Radio, and they hadn't dragged me aside and said, "We'd love to give you your own show." It's like, what would I do? I have no idea what I'm going to do. But I thought, hey, I'll do a talk show. And all of a sudden, Stay Brony, My Friends was made, and I tripped over the first 6 months of making that show, which was the first 6 or 7 episodes of that show are garbage. They really are. They're garbage. But if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't have figured out how to do it and how to make it better. And all of a sudden, by the end of it run, it was a well-oiled machine where every 2 weeks I had a show which had commercials, which had charity, which had a wonderful guest, which had, all of this stuff, and had a following that people loved that show. And it took that first half a year of being bad at something to become really great at something. And that led me into being a voice actor and doing book recordings and being on stage and doing charity auctions and doing Bronies React live and doing Whose Line Is It Anyway live and doing improv and all that stuff. If I hadn't done that, and so I wouldn't be where I am today, which I'm kind of okay at. So, I mean, I'm no Black Griffin, but I think I'm kind of entertaining on stage.
You certainly are. I remember at a Hooves Line, I think it was at BabsCon last year. Was it last year? We were having an improv of what did Sombra think as he was getting blown away.
Yeah.
And you said, I don't feel so good. It's like,
yeah.
It's like, oh, that's hilarious, but too soon.
Yes, but too soon. It was right after that movie.
Peter!
Sweetie asks me important question. Dusty, are you doing anything for BabsCon Online? I want to stalk you if you have the time. No, I'm not doing anything for BabsCon Online. I had a conversation with them and told them straight up that I just don't have the spoons. I'm out of spoons right now. They asked me to do some stuff, and I just said I just can't. I've got things going on in my life where I've put way too much effort into things I shouldn't. I need to put effort into other things right now. So I needed to step back a little bit. I will be around the con saying hello and different things and watching some stuff, but I have to take care of myself at the moment. So no, I won't be doing anything.
Well, but you
spoons is that's a term that I came across over the last couple of weeks. It's a term that the mentally ill use. You only have so many spoons in your drawer. Getting up out of bed is a spoon. Washing yourself and getting ready for work is a spoon. Being in a conversation with somebody you hate is a spoon. Taking care of X is a spoon. Once your drawer is out of spoons, you're done. And basically, I've been giving out a lot of spoons the last couple of months, and basically, I ran out of spoons. I ran out of mental fortitude at the moment, and I have to take care of myself. So basically, you can overgive. Sometimes you need to back up and go, okay, I've given enough right now, and I need to take care of me. And sometimes it's very hard for people like me that like to make other people smile, like to help other people. And sometimes you give too much of yourself, and you get into a situation where it's like, okay, I need to back up. And you don't want to disappoint anybody. I really don't like disappointing people. I know that people want to see me, and I know people want to, talk to me and see me do a panel or whatever. And sometimes I just don't have the mental fortitude to do it at that moment. Sometimes you have to back up and you have to recharge, and you have to recharge your creativity and recharge yourself and take care of things, because there's a lot going on in the world, and I've things going on in my life that I don't want some people privy to, and I have to take care of those things. And I just have to step back and say, okay, I need to take some time for me, and I need to back up. I'll be back. I'm not going anywhere. I just have to back up a little bit. That's all.
Well, that's sound advice. I can commiserate. How do I put this? I'll be taking part in BabsCon line, but after that, I'm like, okay, this was like 3 weekends in a row of online conventions. I think after that, I'm gonna take a breather from the online convention scene. Just like, okay, there's plenty of talented people who can provide. I need to enjoy something new for a minute. Something.
Yeah, it's like there's been 3 of these 3 weeks in a row, and actually 4 weeks in a row if you want to count another one. But
Mhm.
it's like, okay, all of the vendors are the same vendors, and I love all the vendors. They're all my friends. I love the vendors. I always give them money when I can, and I've bought a number of things over the last 3 weeks. I'm going, okay, what can I buy this week? I've got some money and I bought a couple of things, but it'll get to a point where there's so many of these things that everybody who wants to buy something from a vendor has bought it, right? And there's not enough time for them to come up with something new that somebody wants to buy. So as much as I love doing these things, I love that people are doing these online cons. I think we need to back up a little bit and say, okay, there needs to be a couple of weeks between them.
Mm.
Everybody needs to coordinate and go, okay, let's do one, wait a couple of weeks, do another one, wait a couple of weeks, do another one. And then, that gives the vendors enough time to restock or come up with something new and be ready for the next convention. Because normally you would have Babs in the spring, you'd have Everfree, which was normally a month later, but now it's like 6 months later because it took the BronyCon slot.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have Galacon, which is also in the summer slot, and every vendor had months between shows, so they had plenty of time to come up with something new or restock. Well, they don't have that anymore because everyone's trying to do as much as possible, as fast as possible. So, you just need to. I think they need to slow down just a little bit. Slow down.
Take it easy.
Take it easy. Take a week off.
So yeah, I've was it just today? I finally finished a book I've been enjoying for a while, but it was also a long one, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, okay. And lo and behold, a coworker tells me about this book, Maps and Meanings. It's like, hey,
Mm.
that sounds right up my alley. So I'm hoping if I take some time, read that, I'll have something I can present in a new panel or video, because a good idea
Yeah,
spawns other ideas. But I need the time to
absolutely.
read it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like I'm doing this model kit, right? Which is taking me extreme amount of time. I thought for sure I'd be done with it by now, but me being a completist and me being a perfectionist like you, I have to paint it in all the correct colors, and I have to take the time to do all the seam lines and make sure it looks really nice because this is an expensive model kit, and this first one I've done since I was 13. So I'm just streaming me sitting there putting things together and smoothing stuff and sanding stuff, and people seem to show up at my Twitch and at my Twitch stream and just hang out, and it's cool. It's awesome. It's taking me a little longer than usual, but I want to get back into building another guitar. Now that I go back to work, hooray, on Monday, I'll have the machinery to work on guitars again. So I want to get this wrapped up. I don't want to rush it, but I want to get it wrapped up so that I can move on to another guitar project. Um, so it's one of those things where, okay, I need to take my time, but I want to rush it. I want to take my time. But yeah, other than that, that's a piece of information. I'm going back to work on Monday. Hooray!
Yes, yeah,
Fine.
that word just came down just before we started the stream.
Yes, just before you started the stream, I got a text from the boss saying, "Be at work at 10 a.m. We're gonna try to get started again." It's like awesome because I love my job. I love to make things. I love to work on the CNC machines. I love to do all of that stuff. My boss is amazing, and it's one of the best jobs I've ever had. And not being able to be there is killing me. I love being there. I love doing it. And on top of that, he lets me use the machines to make my own stuff. So it's like there's not a better situation for me right now than being at that place. So I really want to get back there and get the shop ramped back up and get flowing again.
Excellent. I will say I've been working remote throughout this whole thing,
Mm.
which is not enjoyable. You think, oh, you get to work from home. Well, the connection, unfortunately, because it's relying on the internet, is very slow. So this week I was back in the workplace, and it makes it all more real. Uh, you get to see the people, you get to interact. I will say you're going to want to make sure you have a mask handy because in some states,
Oh yeah, well I've got one there. I've got one there. I've got one being made by Smudge Dragon. I've got a few being made by a friend of mine in San Francisco. So I need to actually ping him. He's had my material for a while, and I will have plenty of masks to go back to work with.
good.
So I've got handmade stuff. This is really nice handmade things. So I've got plenty of those. Hopefully, I've got some with My Little Pony fabric, which I've given to a couple of people. That hopefully I get those back in time, so I can wear some to work. But yeah, I have many many masks.
I have one that was gifted by Sweetie Bloom, and to my one of the best compliments is that some of my coworkers have seen my videos, like, "Oh, hey, that's your Silver-Quill character."
Oh,
So,
neat. Yep.
so
Yeah, she sent me one with overhaul. So
nice. Uh,
yeah, so I have overhaul.
Placeholder has a question.
Yes.
Since you're a creative type, do you have any advice for another creative person who doesn't know what to do with their life?
Ooh. That's an interesting question. Well, it depends on what you like to create. Do you like to create online art? Do you like to create real life art? Do you like to build things? Do you like to be a maker? Do you like to work as a mechanic on physical things like cars or bikes or bicycles or anything like that? It depends on where your creativity goes. Speaking of creativity, there's the Brony chef. His creativity isn't cooking. There's many, many ways to be creative. It depends on where your creativity lies. It depends on where you want your creativity to be. They sometimes there's a saying out there that says, uh, "Work at the thing you love, and you'll never work a day in your life," which is very wrong. If you work at what you love, you'll work every day of your life. You won't have weekends off because you do what you love. Um, but it's more enjoyable to do that. So what I would do if I were you is sit down with a lined notebook or something and just write down what you like to be creative at, whether it's art or online art or creating websites or cooking or work fixing motorcycles or whatever, right? Just write down a bunch of stuff you like being creative at and then rank them one through however many you have, what you like to do the most. And once you get to that point, you'll say, okay, well, that's the thing I like to do the most. Maybe I should look into doing that. Whether I have to go to cooking school or I have to go to a trade school or I have to go to college or I have to do whatever. Like even for voice acting, there are trade schools for voice actors. On the Mic Training up in Vancouver is now doing online schooling, so you can actually just do it from your house. Um, so that's what I would do. Sit down, make a list, and pick, rank, and then go from there. Like that will give you a roadmap, right? You don't have a map right now. Make the roadmap. Then look at the roadmap and go, I need to go here to get to there. If I want to be a voice actor, this is the roadmap I need to take. If I want to be a mechanic, this is the roadmap I need to go on. All of that stuff. So as soon as you figure that out, then the roadmap, the path will open up to you, and you'll figure it out.
And I want to add emphasis to doing something you love.
Yeah.
During my remote work, I'm isolated in my home, not hearing anyone. So I need just some kind of audio or I'm going to go mad. I turned on
Mm-hmm.
a lot of YouTube videos, not just about My Little Pony, but entertainment in general. And it strikes me how often it's usually someone saying how much they hate this or that or how this franchise is ruined or so on and so forth. And I hear that and I like, you could talk about anything. Why are you focusing on this
Yeah.
on what you don't like? And I
Because they need the views.
well there is
People
that.
people love to do that because that gets them views. Anger gets way more views than happy. I'll tell you that right now.
Yes, that's the unfortunate truth. But then I think, well, is it worth it? All right, you're doing
Yeah.
something you don't enjoy, and you've got to keep doing it to keep an audience.
Hmm.
If you stop
Yeah.
being angry, they get bored.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't like the whole angry to be angry thing. I mean, I tried really hard to make Stay Burning My Friends as happy and jovial as possible. I don't think there was any real anger on it, except for one situation that happened at BronyCon, but we don't go back into that. But it didn't last that long. It lasted a couple of shows and then it was over. Um, so I tried really hard to be positive, and I got so much feedback from the VIPs and Big Jim Miller and a whole bunch of people. I mean, we were in the middle of the show with Terry Klassen, right? And we went to commercial in the middle, which I had all those funny commercials. And he basically commented to me and said, "This is the most professional show I've been on." And I went, "What?" He said, "Yeah, you guys are on the ball." It's like, "Thank you." It's like, okay. And I got a lot of that from a lot of the VIPs when Stay Burning My Friends ended, right? They said, "Well, we missed your show because we could count on it. We knew that it was going to be a good show. We knew that, you know, we were going to have a good time." And that's more of a feather in my cap than anything, right? That VIPs loved coming on my show. And it's one of those things that I'll take to my grave, that I entertained those people and they had a good time. Actually, it was pretty funny. There was a Nightmare Nights I was at. I think it was the second or third Nightmare Nights, and Andrea Libman was there. And our show was maybe, you know, a year old at that point. And she comes straight up to me. And I hadn't met her, but maybe once or twice. And it was basically cordial stuff. And she came up to me and says, "When am I going to be on your show?" So I was like, I pulled out my phone. I said, "When would you like to be?" "Whenever you want. I will bump people for you." So she said, "How about this day?" And I'm sure we set it up, and she came on the show and had a great time, and everything was cool. Uh, but yeah, it's like positivity spreads positivity, and I like being positive. I like, you know, that there was only one time that I didn't like an episode, and I said something about it, and that was when you and I did our collaboration, when Rainbow Dash became a Wonderbolt, and I really didn't like that episode, and I gave what I thought were very good reasons why that episode was written badly. And I said, okay, if I'm going to be upset about this episode, I have to come up with a reason, and these are the reasons why I was upset with it. And I think that, you know, I made a very good argument as to how it could have been better, and how they basically, you know, took one of the hallmark moments of that show in its 9 seasons and basically threw it against the wall with mud and said, "Oh, that might stick." And instead of actually giving it the attention and the detail that it really needed to have. And that's the only time I was ever, you know, really critical of the show.
Mm-hmm. But you also were willing to take part in my absurdist style review. You know,
Yeah, I loved doing that because I hadn't done it before, and it was kind of fun to do. And, you know, riffing off each other was really fun. Sometimes I thought I was maybe, you know, abusing the Griffin just a bit too much.
oh, there's
But
no such thing.
there's no such thing. Yeah, but that was fun. And like I said, if it was going to, the thing I like about your approach to analyzing, okay, is that it's actual analyzation. It's not opinion, right? So when I was going to do a collab with Silver-Quill, right, I had to step up my game because he is an ace analyst. And if I don't do analyzation, one, I'm going to look like an idiot. And two, I can't hang with the man because he's so good at it. So I spent a good long while coming up with my points and how to make them before we did our recording. So you made me better as an analyst just basically by being yourself and doing what you do. And it's like, and that's one of the things I love about this fandom is like, okay, if you want to hang, you better step up, and because there is a lot of good people doing a lot of good work. And if you want to be in that context, if you want to be, you know, be in that conversation, you better work at it. And that's one of the things where, I mean, back in the day, Bronyville versus Stay Brony, my friends, right? Bronyville was a wonderful show. I love those guys. They did a wonderful show. Stay Brony, my friends, was a wonderful show. I'd like to think, but people sort of pitted us against each other when we were all friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of played into it a bit when I probably shouldn't have. Sort of as a haha gag kind of thing. And it came down to the Goldie Awards at BabsCon, where they were giving an award for best podcast, and it became us versus them, and it became a thing. And I think I went about that wrong. I think that instead of competing with Bronyville, should have made a joke of it. Should have got with them and said, why don't we just joke about this, because who cares, right? And that's one of the things that I regret, is that the thing between us and Bronyville became a adversarial thing versus a friendly rivalry, pretty much.
I know that feeling. I tried doing online, like, back and forth, and I realized I don't enjoy it, and I have no skill at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, you know what? That's not a bad failing in my eyes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just find fun. But if we're sharing compliments, because you've paid me several just now, I want to recount to everyone, you helped me step up my game, and I think become a better part of this community as a result. This was at Everfree Northwest, 2015, I think.
Yeah, sounds right.
Josh Gorcher and I were going to do a panel with anime voice talent who also had been in the show. Like the voice actor for Seabreeze also voiced the ocean dub of Vegeta. I think that's right. I can get easily mixed up there. But I'd never done it before. And so you included me in a group going to that awesome barbecue place across the street.
Right.
And you laid it out for me what you need to do. What these folks, they get the same questions at a lot of conventions. How'd you get started? Who's your favorite character to play? You need to give them something new to help them be engaged. And you and the illustrious Q and a few other folks who, to my own shame, I can't remember everyone who was there, but you guys really told me how I could step up my game. And I went back to my hotel room and I spent a good chunk of the night researching the careers and trying to come up with questions. I still made mistakes, as I was new, but I think I did a better job, and I was more aware of how I could improve for having talked with all of you. And I don't think I would have been as active in this fandom if you hadn't pointed me the way.
Well, thanks for that. It's one of those things where it was a very hard lesson for me to learn, because the first time I did a panel, I did it wrong. I did all the same questions. I did all the same everything. Everybody kind of knew what was going on and knew what questions were going to come, and the VAs were bored, and the crowd was kind of bored, and it just came off flat. You know what I mean? Just flat. And at that point, I swore to myself, saying, if I do this again, we're going to spice it up. We're going to do something else. And it came to a head at BronyCon last year, the very last BronyCon, right? And they wanted me to be the panel lead for Lauren and Bonnie, right? And the whole thing was sort of like, we're going to rehash this again. Everybody who's here has seen a Lauren and Bonnie panel. And I said, okay. Right at the start of it, I said, okay, this is what we were supposed to do, but we're not doing it. This is the last BronyCon. They can kick me off the stage. I don't care. We are going to talk about women in animation and go from there. And Bonnie was a little bit lost, but I fed her some softball stuff, and Lauren was into it, and Bonnie was sort of into it at the end when she started talking about She-Ra and some other stuff that happened in the 80s. And I think that it was more entertaining than just rehashing the same. Okay, Bonnie gave us My Pretty Pony, and Lauren found it and gave us My Little Pony. Who cares? We know that. Let's go on. Let's give some opinions on what they think of what's going on in the industry right now with the new She-Ra and the new this and the new that and everything that's going on. And I think it was a more interesting panel from that point, right? Now, when I went to Galacon in 16, they had me run a couple of panels there, but the people that were on it, I didn't know, right? I didn't know those voice actors. I did do some research, but most of them didn't speak English very well. So it was very hard for me to do a good panel when it all fell apart. And it was probably one of the worst panels I had ever done was the one I did at Galacon. And I feel really bad about it. I did my research and I tried really hard, but I just couldn't pull it back from the edge. It went over the edge and crashed and burned. And you're going to have that stinker every now and then, right? I've had bad charity auctions, and there was nothing I could do. I mean, I was trying really hard to make it great, but if the crowd isn't there and with you, there's almost nothing you can do to pull it back from the edge. They just wanted to get in and get out, and there's nothing you can do. But the one I did at Galacon, where I put on all that effort and it didn't pay off, that one is a lump in my throat, which I really wish I could go back and fix. But you're going to have those stinkers, and every creative is going to have it. You're going to try really, 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 really hard to do something, and it's just not going to work. And sometimes, like an artist, it's like you sit there and you'll sketch something and sketch something and sketch something. It just doesn't work. All you can do is crumple it up in a ball, throw it over your shoulder, and start again. That's all you can do. And you have to keep, like that panel, I have to look, it has to be in my rear view mirror. I have to look at it as a learning experience, not dwell on it and go, okay, let's not do that again. Let's figure out what went wrong and how to fix it and go from there. And sometimes I'll do a panel. I'll just be the seat of I'm really good at improvisation. I'm really good at improv. So I'll go into a panel where I know the people on the panelists. I know the panelists, and I'll just go. It's like I don't do any prep whatsoever, and just say, okay, this is how it's going to go, and this is kind of the direction I want to go. I have no notes. Zoom. And those are some of the best panels I've ever done. So it's like, oh my God, I should do that more often. Because that's what I do for a charity auction. I go up there knowing what's in the auction, and my brain will start making things in the back of its head for when a piece comes up, right? And I go, okay, then there's a joke to go here. Like, okay, at the beginning of here, in fact, I was just watching this today. At the beginning of the charity auction for BabsCon last year, they put a podium up on the thing. I don't use podiums. They put a podium up there with a little gavel, right? Well, I knew that the first piece that was coming up was a giant hammer. It's like, oh, I can use this. So basically, I do everything from the podium, looking really proper and all this kind of stuff. And then I take that gavel and I smash it as hard as I can until it breaks. I throw it over my shoulder. I throw the piece of wood over my shoulder. I say, get this dang thing off. I don't need this. Get it off my stage. Get off my stage. And all of a sudden, you know what? I need a bigger hammer. This little hammer, I don't need this hammer. I need a bigger hammer. I just stuck my right arm out, and somebody came and gave me the big hammer. I just looking at the crowd. And the crowd lost it. It was funny. It's like, we have a big hammer. And that's the kind of thing that you figure out when you're doing this thing. It's like, okay, what can I do with a certain auction item? What could be funny about it? Okay, we're gonna bring up Rebecca Soichet with this piece. What do I know about Rebecca that I can play off of? You know, that kind of thing. And you're always constantly thinking about what you can play on with people and with things. And that's how improv sort of works.
Very much. Just can you find the game within the game?
Yes, find the game within the game. And that's my wisdom, sweetie. Find the game within the game. You know that you're going to be on a panel with Andy Price, you're going to be and Jeremy Whitley. Look at their research. Have a list of what they've done next to you that you can actually come up with questions about, and that's it. Just have the questions come up to the top of your head. Just have a list of what they've done, and say, I want to talk about Andy's horror stuff. Here's all the horror stuff he's done. Here's the company he's done it for. Just come up with a question. And for Jeremy Whitley, what did you do before Pony? What are you doing outside of Pony? You know that he's done the Princeless uh, series. Talk about Princeless. I'm sure he'd love you to talk about Princeless. Um, Figure out what he's doing right now outside of Pony, so that you can bring that he can actually pimp himself and figure out what he's doing now. So give them that softball question so they can pimp themselves and what they're doing outside of Pony also. It gives them a big boost of things they can do.
Yes, Jeremy's been one of his biggest contributions was the Unstoppable Wasp,
Right,
which
Unstoppable Wasp. I mean, which was a great book, but it got canceled.
eh,
Right, maybe there's a story in there that he can talk about now that the book is canceled. Um, Unstoppable Wasp looked like it was going to be the next big thing, and all of a sudden, it's gone. And why? Why is it? Why is it gone? Was there something that happened in the background that we don't know about that he can talk about? Something like that.
or how can the ideas from the Unstoppable Wasp influence My Little Pony season 10? Can you carry some of those ideas over?
Right. I mean, can you carry, anything that you did from your other stuff into what's going on in Pony right now? Because we got season 10. So are there any ideas that you couldn't use because Unstoppable Wasp got canceled that you're going to be using in MLP? He may or may not talk about it because NDA or whatever, but give him that sort of opportunity to talk about his thing that he loves, right? So basically, just give them up. The biggest trick in heading up a panel is to give your panelists something to talk about that they want to talk about, right? Figure out what they love and give them, a big trough of water to drink from. It's like, okay, you did all of this independent stuff, Princeless, blah, blah, blah. What would you like to talk about? Let's talk about Unstoppable Wasp. Let's talk about this. Andy, I know that you love Batman. When did your love of Batman come around? Was it the 1960s Batman with Adam West? Was it before that? Was it the comics? What's your favorite Batman? I know that you love James Bond. Just as James Bond come into the My Little Pony universe at any time? Was there anything that you used to write My Little Pony from James Bond or from Magnum PI? Because he loves Magnum PI like I do, and he puts him in the background almost everywhere. What's your favorite Magnum PI episode? And did any of the Magnum PI stories actually work their way into My Little Pony? Blah, 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 blah. So basically, you're just on and on and on. And basically, the questions start writing themselves as you figure out what their interests are, right? And you can still bring that back to My Little Pony by saying, okay, how did your experience on this help going into doing My Little Pony?
And I can provide one other tidbit. Andy is a passionate Star Trek fan.
Oh, passionate Star Trek fan.
So
Passionate.
he'll probably want to weigh in on Discovery and Picard.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Ask him if he likes Discovery versus Picard or Picard versus Discovery. We'll see him explode. But yeah, or MASH, right? He's a giant MASH fan. Did anything in the 10 to 12, 15 years that MASH was on TV work its way into his work anywhere? My Little Pony, horror, whatever he's doing, right? How did what he grew up with and what he loved affect what he does now, right? Or what he does for a living? He just bought a brand new house. Talk about, hey, you bought a brand new house. Are you going to be setting up a brand new studio? What are you going to set up in your studio? How are you going to set it up? Let him talk about his studio setup to teach other people how to set up a studio by his interest in he just bought a house. How would you set up your studio? How do you think other people should set up a studio? Things like that. So, it's basically figuring out what's going on in their world, which we can do now with Twitter or things like that, or Instagram. It's like, okay, this is what's going on. How can I use that to make a question?
And just how can we have fun with this?
And how can we have fun with it? Pretty much.
I mean, one of the funniest moments for me in a panel was at that voice actor panel I mentioned earlier. The voice actor who played Ralph from Ed, Ed, and Eddie, he was there and asked how would he greet Princess Celestia, and he just slipped immediately into character and started chatting it up. And you he didn't miss a beat, and just the whole audience was laughing.
Well, yeah, some of that stuff is so organic, right? I had Michael Dobson, excuse me, on my Stay Burning My Friend show, and he played, he played Snowflake, and basically there was a question on our show, which was something about how much he lifted or how much how strong he was, and he just dropped into Snowflake and said, "Let me tell you something about creatine," and the place lost it. I was on the floor, apoplectic, right? Screwball's laughing. I'm laughing. The chat is losing its mind because it was just off the cuff. Give them a line. Give them some rope, and they will run with it, right? And that's basically what you're there to do as a panel lead, is to give them rope so they can talk with it, right? Just give them a little bit and let them shine. That's what happened when I did the panel with Lena Hall at BronyCon, not last year, year before. She loves to talk. All you have to do is give her one line and she's gone. I couldn't get in a word at edgewise. I mean, I think I said maybe one paragraph that entire hour, right? I just pointed her in a direction and off she went. And it was amazing. And I thought it was a really great panel. And she loved being there, and she loved playing rah-rah, and she loved, all the people and all the gifts she was getting and everything that was going on. And just giving her that rope so she can run with it, right? Know something about their history, give them the favorite piece of rope that they have, the golden rope, and let them go. That's how you do your job.
And I think it can also be pretty fun to see where it goes.
Oh yeah.
Interesting case in point. In the chat, there's been the question: where's Silver-Quill staying? While I established I had this castle being built, and then it got destroyed for continuity. And inwardly, I'm thinking, knowing my character, he's probably stealing into places and just getting a few Z's and sneaking out again because he's that much of a cheapskate. So you could have a whole segment. Where's Silver-Quill? Where's Silver-Quill sneaking into now?
Silver-Quill is sleeping in the basement of the dungeon of the castle that I had when remember the one special we had with all the cockatrices?
Yes, a serpent's tail.
Serpent's tail. And at the end, I had the castle.
Yes,
I had my own castle. Did I have a castle at the end of that?
Oh yeah.
So you're basically sneaking in and out of the dungeon, sleeping in my castle. I think
it's a very roomy dungeon.
It's a very roomy dungeon. Nobody actually gets down there.
So ultimate privacy.
Of course, not the hi-fi stereo system's really good down there.
Oh yeah, shake the whole castle. Also, William Gannis says, "Tell Dustykatt I said hi to him."
Well, hello.
But yeah, it's fun to see just where the stories go and what they might unveil. And I've been a part of some panels where it's like I was like, man, I don't even need to be here. These folks are just carrying it all on their own, and they're loving engaging with the audience.
Yep, I had that at the Vancouver show in January. So basically, we did a script reading, and the guys who were running that show basically didn't really know. And I love those guys. I really do. They're awesome people. But this was the first time they were doing a script reading, and I got up there with about 15 minutes to go until the show, and nobody knew what characters they were doing, right? And they've got like all these scenes from famous stuff, like we did. What are some of the scenes we did? I can't remember, but anyway, we did Monty Python and Holy Grail, and Ian, the guy who did Sunburst, was there. And I said, "Okay, you're gonna be King Arthur, and you're gonna do it as Sunburst." And he went, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, it'll be freaking hilarious." And sure enough, it was amazing. And basically, I just called out characters to these guys. Okay, you're gonna do this scene. You're gonna do Starburst. You're gonna do Sunburst, excuse me, and you're gonna do all these people, and basically having all of the MLP characters play all these famous roles were just absolute. It was just an absolute scream. and they hadn't set anything up before 15 minutes to go, and I just had to sit down there and go, okay, here. We'll cut this off here. We'll do this, and it'll be fun. Great, trust me. Okay, and we got out there and we killed, we slayed. It was amazing.
It's awesome. So again, it all comes back to do something that you love. You just want to have some fun, and we know the guests want to have fun too. I mean, they're not traveling all this way just so they can sit and be like ho hum another convention. They want to have some experience there too.
Yep.
So, and I think that transfers to the online. Was at the last Pony Fest Online, I had the pleasure of talking with several of the IDW staff, including Tony. And let's see here. And basically, they were just sharing all the projects that they could, their own publications, their own upcoming works, even a few shots of the upcoming My Little Pony Transformers crossover. And we just
I just got the Fluttershy cover.
Oh, I
just ordered that.
Me too.
You can order straight from IDW.
Fluttershy is in a Bumblebee cosplay sleeping, while the actual Bumblebee is holding her. Mm-hmm. I also got the Transformers cover where they're all cosplaying as ponies at a convention. I will say.
Oh yeah, that's a nice cover too.
I gotta say, Blue Rodimus makes a stunning rarity.
He does. You would know more than me because I wasn't that much of a Transformers guy. So it's like some of this crossover is lost on me, but I think that it's just very fun for them to actually do it because it's so the two properties are so on the other end of the scale, right? So I can't wait to see how they actually pull this off.
Me too. I suspect that bronies will have an easier time integrating with the story than perhaps the Transformers fans because of that shift.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe they'll see, hey, honestly, everything is just an expression of passion in a new form. So, how do I put this? I've been thinking of an editorial talking about the Warhammer 40K franchise, which has some overlap with the Brony fandom. And you just think, end of the day, all those differences, you still recognize an expression of passion. Maybe it's not the form you would have done, but you can recognize that energy. And again, that's why I like positive stuff, because the angry review, the hypercritical review, always feels disingenuous to me. It's like if you're saying this didn't live up to what I love about a story, okay, you're still defining it in terms of what you love and why it didn't work. But if it's just these people are no talent hacks, then I feel like you're not being totally honest with me. I think there's a little bit too much showmanship involved.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see here. I'm just looking. Tenchienko01, Tenchi asks, how do you feel about Luna redesigns? I'm not sure. I mean, Luna had the biggest redesign in the whole show.
Yeah, she sure did. She started out as Nightmare Moon, and all of a sudden she was a mini pony, and then all of a sudden she's a teenager, and now she's the regalness that is Luna, right? And so she's had more changes over the course of the 9 seasons than probably any of the other ponies.
It's true.
So yeah, when we first meet Luna, she's Nightmare Moon. Then the second time we meet Luna, she's a filly. Then she's gone for a little while, and she comes back as the bratty teenager. Now she's back to being Regal Luna because she's had 9 years to figure it out. So it's, especially in the movie, I mean, she was very regal in the movie. So it's I think that she's had more of a character arc, if you want to call it that, from the princess point of view than almost any character other than, Starlight. Starlight had a huge character arc from villain to where she is today. So yeah, Luna is not emo anymore. So yeah, I that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people love Luna, because they can relate to her in the growing up, right? From being a young kid to being an adult now in the 10 years that we've had Pony. Some of the kids who got into Pony were 13, 14, 15, and then 10 years later, they're 23, 24, 25.
They're in
So
college, or
they're in college, or they're adults now, right? And basically you started off as a teenager, a very young teenager, and now some of them might even have their own kids watching My Little Pony, the same Pony series that they watched as a kid. Now they have their own kids, right? And I think that's probably one of the main reasons why Pony died, got killed off, because that was for that generation of kids, right? And now Hasbro has a new generation of kids to have a Pony thing for them, so it's their own pony. They don't want their mom's pony; they want their own pony, right? Nobody thinks that their mom's toys were cool or their dad's toys were cool, even though I had the wind-up Evil Knievel that's now come back onto the market, which is awesome. And that was the coolest toy ever. But nobody thought that was cool. Nobody likes your dad's toys except for G.I. Joe, or Transformers. But they want their own pony for themselves, right? This is not mom's pony. This is not your mom's pony. This is something new.
although the grand humor in that is that the fans of the old show often make the new. I mean, Transformers is a prime example, pun intended.
Right.
The kids who watched it are now writing the comics, designing the toys. I'm looking at the Earthrise Optimus Prime, the latest version. I have it.
Right.
It is leagues superior in design and playability to the die-cast metal Optimus I had, whose plastic pegs broke so easily.
But you have to remember also, manufacturing technology has come a long way in 20 years.
It has.
Because back in the 80s, you didn't have the type of plastic injection molding and CNC technology that you have today that's cheap enough to make these kinds of toys. Yes, you might have had it back then, but it was way too expensive to make a $10 toy with. If you made a toy with those technologies back in the day, it'd be $150. But now that technology has gone 20 years into the future, now you have the technology and the engineering force and computers that can do the engineering to make a toy with more articulation and more types of transforming that you couldn't produce 20 years ago.
And you also have the passion of the fans who want to carry that forward and use this new technology.
Absolutely.
Because when you say, no one wants to play with mom or dad's toys, and yet it is those moms and dads who are making the new stuff.
Oh yeah, it's like, think about the video games I grew up with. When I was growing up, video games didn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't exist. Pong didn't exist the first 10 years of my life. It came out when I was about 10, 9. And we had like one Pong machine in a bowling alley in Michigan that we got to play every now and then. Then all of a sudden, you got Pac-Man. Then you got Donkey Kong. Then you got Moon Patrol. And then you've got Defender. And then you've got Orbitron. And then you got Moon Patrol. And you got all of these stand-up arcade games. And all of a sudden, an arcade was a thing, right? And it had half pinball machines and it had half arcade games. And the arcade was created when I was a kid. And all of a sudden, they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the Atari 2600 happened, right? And then you could have some of these games at home. Actually, the Atari 2600 happened before a bit of that. But then you had the Nintendo, right? And now you had arcade graphics and playability at home. And the ColecoVision happened. And some of these other, like the VIC-20 and some of these other game systems. And then the Sega Genesis happened. And it all went downhill for arcades at that point. Because they got rid of all their pinball machines because video games were the thing. And all of a sudden, video games are now at home. So it killed off the arcade. And now we've gone 20 years into the future, and you've got a handheld Switch that has more computing power and better graphics than anything that's come along in in the past. But people still now want to repop ColecoVision and Atari 2600 onto their computers or their TV. I mean, you can get an Atari 2600 in a joystick, right? The entire thing is a joystick.
Mm-hmm.
And people want it now because it's retro. And some people want their parents' toys because they're retro and they're kind of cool that way. But it took 40 years to get to this point, right? So what in 40 years, I'll be dead, will video games look like, right? We're already getting into VR, right? We have VR chat now. So we have VR gaming now, but it's in its infancy, right? So what will VR video games and chat and all that stuff look like? What will the internet look like in 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, right? Will we be able to, go VR chat on the moon just because we want to? Mm-hmm. Will we be able to VR chat with our friends in Australia? Just have like holographic bodies that we can shake hands with and play checkers with or whatever from different places in the world. VR concerts, right? If I want to go see the Foo Fighters, and I can put on a VR headset and not have to go down to San Francisco and get my car broken into, but I can watch that concert right here in my living room. What's it going to be like in 10, 20, 30 years, right?
Maybe not even that long.
Maybe not that long. I'm 52. By the time I'm 82, I want to see that world. I want to be healthy enough that I can see 30 years in the future and what happens, right? It's one of the things that really engages me. What is technology going to be like? I grew up with all this technology happening. There were no cell phones. There was no internet. There was no nothing. I was the last generation of kids who had to be home when the streetlights came on because I was out playing, right? Bicycles. No kid has a bicycle nowadays, right? It's like they don't care. They're not out playing. They're inside on their Switches or whatever. They don't have bicycles. They don't go out and fly kites. They don't, go swimming at the river where I grew up. We had a river between Michigan and Canada that we swam in all the time, right? They don't do that. They'll go on a vacation and do it. They'll do whatever that kind of thing, but not like they used to, right? Not all the kids. All the kids don't do that anymore. Not all of them anymore. When I was a kid, we all did it. We all got together. We ran from everybody's house, gathering enough kids to play football at the school field. Let's get 12 kids and go play football. No kid plays football. How many kids out there do you know grab 12 of their friends and go down to the local school and play a football game?
They probably play EA Online or something.
Yeah, they'll play EA Online. They don't want to go out and throw a football around or baseball or whatever. I mean, we used to go down to the Little League field and play baseball and get kicked off because we weren't supposed to be on that field, unless the Little League season was on. So it's one of those things where I can't wait for technology to make that next major jump. That's like battery technology, right? Battery technology is so on the cutting edge because of cars, right? Battery cars, and so battery technology is being shoved so hard because they're trying to get so much range out of a battery pack for cars and trucks, and that is exciting to see when we make that next technological leap from the kind of batteries we have now to the kind of batteries we're going to have in the future, so that a car or a truck can go 500 or 600 miles on a battery charge. That's going to be amazing. That's going to be amazing to say, okay, when will the United States get high-speed rail, right? We are so far behind on the entire world's high-speed rail. If we had a high-speed rail system just from the East Coast to the West Coast, not just north to south, just east to west, how that would change how the United States would do things, right? Could you imagine a high-speed rail from, say, Seattle to LA, or from Miami to DC all the way up to New York? could you imagine the way the United States would change?
We'd certainly. Well, I'm honestly I can't. I'm a little behind in seeing how technology affects a change until that change has already happened. I will say,
Yeah, but just think about how Japan
oh yeah,
was before they put in rail, before they put in the high speed rail,
hmm.
right? They were just coming out of World War II. They were just, rebuilding themselves, rebuilding, and they said, okay, we're just going to do this because now we have it. We're going to do this now. Look at the technological marvel that is Japan right now, because they put they put so much into technology, so much into learning new technology, creating new technology. When I was in Japan a couple of years ago, I could go from one end of the country to the other in a train in a day, mere hours. And it's like, if I could go from San Francisco to LA in 2 hours instead of 7, right, in a train where I didn't have to go to the airport and deal with the airport,
Yeah.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
I could go to LA for a job from San Francisco. I could get up and get on the train at like 5 in the morning and be in LA at 7, still be at work by 9. Easy. But no, it's not going to happen because politics.
Well, I don't know because even the current situation with COVID, people are there is a big realization about how much we can rely on technology to keep connected. And if this had all happened, I'd argue 20 years ago, we wouldn't have this level of connectivity.
Oh, heck no.
But
Heck no.
it's also drawn attention to people who are without this access and what is being denied them. How do we make this more approachable, more affordable?
Yeah. Well, there's two things going on. One, you've got a bunch of people looking at it as an opportunity to figure out how we can make this work going forward.
Mm.
And there are other people trying to figure out how we can make $1 off it.
And sometimes the two align, sometimes they oppose.
Sometimes the two align, and sometimes the two butt heads.
Oh yeah.
It's like, okay, we have all these people working from home. We figured out we can make it work. But how can we make a buck off of it? Right? So you've got corporations whose people are working from home who could either lease out or sell buildings they don't need and cut their overhead, put that into people, put that into equipment for people at home, things like that. That's the opportunity I see as if I was running a company, right? If I was running a company and sent a bunch of people home and all of my work is still getting done, I'm going, why am I paying rent or taxes on a building that I don't need? All I need is a server farm. That's it, right? I can do meetings on Zoom. Every now and then I could rent a conference center and say, okay, everybody needs to be at this conference center, fly everybody in. We'll do a face-to-face once every 6 months or whatever you need. But almost everything can be done on a Zoom chat and from home on computing power that we have today. So there's a whole bunch of industry that could take advantage of this. Will they? Don't know. Depends on the forward thinking of whatever CEO is part of that company, right? But if I was the CEO of that company, I'd be going, I don't need all of this real estate. It's costing me money. I can send my people can be at home as long as the people are checking in and getting their work done. I don't care, right? Work 3 or 4 hours a day. As long as the work's getting done to a high quality, I don't give a shit. If you're not doing your work, then I'm going to come down on your butt. But if you're getting your work done, I don't care if you're doing it for 2 hours or 8 hours. Get your work done. That's it.
Though I will say the art of human interaction, you need to find a way to keep that intact because I actually worked for a job where it was decentralized. Customer service and art was done at home through a website that actually made the coordination work. And the print company, the print facility was in New York. But I never really saw the people I worked with. And as a result, the experience, I think, soured rather quickly.
Mm,
Because if you can't really look the people you're working with in the eye, Zoom is a helpful substitute, but I still think meeting people in the flesh
mm-hmm.
and getting to see experience, that makes them more real.
Right.
And so we can't
And
lose
that,
the
like I
human
said,
elements.
you have a meeting, you have an in-face meeting every couple of months, just to get together and say, this is how the project's going, this is what I think we should do, just back and forth. Have like a weekend retreat back and forth, right? It's like, okay, everybody's going to be here, we're going to talk about this project, we're going to do this, whatever. So you still get your interaction, but it's more, you have more better home life, you have better use of a person's time for the company, and the company doesn't have the overhead of buildings and all that kind of stuff. They can put that money back into health insurance, they can put that back into a whole bunch of other things. But that's just me, that's just a pipe dream. That's just me going pipe dream.
Oh, I don't think it's as big a pipe dream as it may sound. I mean, even when you say
Yeah,
having people gather, combine that with if you have better accessibility through high speed travel, people can meet from
right,
further away, and so it's like, oh, the that's far too expensive. Well, remember, you're not having to invest as much in physical locations, so you
right.
can invest more in travel. It's all coming together in bits and pieces, but it is taking shape.
Yeah. How long is it going to take? Is it going to be around when I'm still alive?
I
Is the thing.
I think it
If
will.
I take care of myself and make it to my 80s, I might see it. I might see it. But I would love to see it. I want to be around long enough to see it. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think that I was born too early for that to happen. But we will find out. I'm sure everybody who gets to my age says I was born too early, because I want to see what happens as technology takes off. Because I was like, my grandparents, they were there at the dawn of the car, right? And now we've got 3,000 horsepower monsters going down a drag strip. You've got cars made with batteries. You've got all of that stuff. They couldn't even think of a time when electricity wasn't made with coal, right? But you end up outliving technology, right? So you're going to end up dying before the real cool technology happens. I mean, you'll get old enough to going, wow, I'm 90 years old. I'm probably going to die before I see nuclear fusion in a car. You know, you know, really weird stuff. But it's just the way of the world, I guess. I mean, it's been like that since the dawn of time. Somebody dies before fire is harnessed to make steam. Somebody dies before the telegraph happens, and you can talk to somebody from one end of the country to the other in 2 seconds. It's really a fool's gambit that you think you're going to be around long enough to see everything.
But I think the flip side then is other people get to live because of what you contributed while in that time. You may not get
Yeah,
to you may not get to see the fruits of all the labor, but that doesn't mean that that labor was for nothing.
correct. And that's what I like to that's what I like to think about. It's like, okay, what I do today is going to be better for somebody else, right? If I plant a tree today, that in 40 years it'll be shade for somebody else. And that's the way that I think humans don't think of anymore.
Mm.
I think that there's been a whole lot of me, me, me. There's been a me, me, me attitude for the last 20 years in human interaction, and nobody thinks of, how can I help my fellow man,
Mm.
right? And you see the same thing with what's going on with the COVID thing. People open up the state, open up the state. Well, I'm not going to do that until it's okay to do that. And if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to go to work on Monday, I'm taking every precaution with masks and gloves and everything I can, because I have to go back to work. But I right now, I think it's okay to go back to work if you take certain precautions. We're not out of the woods yet.
Mm.
If I mean, I've been in this house every day except for once a week. I go out once a week on my motorcycle or to pick something up that I need for this model kit or whatever. But I come right straight back home and I wash my hands twice. I take off all my clothes and I put on new clothes and all that stuff so I can wash it and take care of all this stuff because I'm taking care of my fellow man. I don't want my dad or my mom to get this thing. I don't want my friends who have immune deficiencies to get this thing, right? So I don't want anybody in my house to get this thing because I went out. So I'm going to be taking extreme caution until we get a vaccine, until we get the okay from scientists who tell me it's okay, right? Not politicians. I need scientists that have backed up their theories and backed up their work and saying, okay, now we're okay. So this is what I'm thinking, and this is what I'm doing. I hope you're doing the same thing. You know, I might be a little bit on. I mean, people out there are taking it as serious as it needs to be taken. The people who think this is just another flu are idiots. They're dumb. They're stupid. Okay, it's like, okay, well, the flu kills so many other people. Yeah, you know why? The flu kills so many other people. We also have a vaccine for that. We have a vaccine for the flu every year. The flu changes. They make a new vaccine for it every year. You have to take the new vaccine for it every year. That's because viruses are deadly. Okay, if you don't have a vaccine for a virus, guess what? It's deadly, especially to people who have immune system problems. So if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't take care of, if you don't take care of cleaning yourself, taking care of all the stuff. I mean, we bought a UV light for the house so that we can UV our masks, so we can UV some stuff that comes in from my outside, so we can kill whatever might be on this thing. Mm-hmm. Right? We're not taking a freaking chance just because some politician says, "Oh, well, we need to re-ramp the economy." Well, figure it out. Okay, re-ramp. That's what we put you in charge for. You're supposed to figure it out, not just throw a bunch of people back into the workforce to get dead because you need the economy revved up again. Okay, other countries are figuring this out. Why don't you figure out that maybe what they're doing might be what we need to do?
And
sorry, went off.
No. Hey, believe me, it's something everyone feels passionate about one way or another. And the hardest thing is that this is a big unknown. Like you say, we have vaccines for the flu. We have experience. This is new territory. And one of the hardest things is not knowing what exactly this entails. How will it mutate? How does it spread?
They're still learning new things. Yes. They're still learning new things every day about this virus. All right. Young people are dying with it. Old people are dying with it. Okay. They say, well, it's only killing old people. Bullshit. There's 20-year-olds dying with it. There's young kids getting it. I read a story about a kid who was a soccer prodigy who was out practicing and all of a sudden keeled over because his lungs quit. His parents had no idea. He was fine when they dropped him off for soccer practice, and all of a sudden he's on a ventilator at like 15. Okay. Yeah. This shit's scary.
It is.
This will take you out. It might not. It won't hit everybody. Nobody knows why some people have it and are autoimmune and don't actually succumb. They don't know that yet. They don't know what the thing is that all those people have in their DNA, which keeps them from getting really dead. Right? They don't know why certain people get it and immediately heal over. They're not sure. All they know is that if you have autoimmune stuff like AIDS or any of this other stuff, you're very, very susceptible to it. So until the time when they've got this locked down and nailed down, I'm taking every precaution, everyone. I'm really hoping that we figure it out before Everfree Northwest comes. I really do. That's still a few months away. They haven't canceled it yet. They might, who knows? But at this point, I don't want to get a virus from, being that I could have prevented just by taking care of me, cleaning myself, making sure my clothes are washed, making sure that, I take care of masks and gloves and all that stuff.
Care for yourself and for other people.
If you care for yourself, you'll care for everybody else. And if you don't take care of yourself, if you want to go off and protest at some, 300 or 400 people at some state capitol, basically saying, open, I need to go get a haircut, you're dead to me. All right. I don't akin to that. It's stupid. You're not thinking for yourself, and you're not taking it serious enough. Okay. You're just not. And I don't care if that loses me fans. I don't care if a bunch of people on /MLP start, piss pouring me and saying that I'm an idiot because I'm too leftist. Guess what? Don't care. Don't care. I'm taking care of me, so I take care of you. You should do the same.
And that's why I want to give a shout out to the online conventions who are keeping the spirit going while still honoring practicing social distancing, removing that element without sacrificing the spirit. So, and with that, we're just about out of time. So I want to encourage everyone once again to check out BabsCon Line tomorrow and tonight. It's happening right now. Head on
right
over
now.
there.
They got music going.
They got music going.
They got music going right now.
I'll be part of a Jaxbox game later on tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And then tomorrow is several panels. There's the MBS show live, which will be myself, Norman Sanzo, and Torterra1324, talking about the season finale. Claire, Midnight Sonata, and Aramau, the Fiery Secretary, will talk about experiences female fans in Sisterhood of Social. I will have my Law and Order Equestria panel, and Dr. Wolf will be hosting a TF2 Analysis Anarchy panel. So
right. Sophie's drinking panel is live right now.
Oh, well then. So that's all good stuff to check out. But Dusty, thank you for joining me and just sharing your thoughts, shooting the breeze.
Oh, you're welcome.
And sharing your time with all these fine folks. And everyone at home, I thank you for watching. And I hope you have a fun weekend. Stay safe, stay well. We will get to the other side of this very strange period, and we'll do so together. So
we will.
So take care, and thanks for watching.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you.